All right. Thank you so much for being here. It's such an honor to be hosting this panel with such trailblazers and powerhouses on impact-driven JPEGs. So my name is Ariane Audet. I am the founder of The Caretakers and also the nonprofit organization called Faces Postpartum. I'm an advocate, and these projects are bridging the resources of Web3 to perinatal care. So really harvesting the power that we find in our industry in order to do good. And today this panel is exactly about that. It's about how we can drive impact through NFTs. So again, it's an honor. Johnny, Taylor, Leah, thank you for being here. First off, I'd like for each of you to introduce yourself, your project, and you know, what brought you into impact-driven NFTs. Leah, do you want to start?
Yes, hi. Hi, I'm Leah. I'm the artist and founder behind Power of Women. I entered the space as a one-to-one artist during sort of a time when we weren't seeing a lot of female founders, we weren't seeing a lot of female creators. I called myself Power of Women just because my other Twitter handle was used up. And I came into the space as a one-to-one artist, but I think at that time we were seeing a need for a lot of women in the space wanting to be connected to a lot of female projects. So we were seeing the meteoric rise of Women Rise, World of Women, Boss Beauties, and I think a lot of people thought Power of Women was just the next project. Obviously, I'm here as an artist doing one-to-one artworks, but you know, since a lot of the community came and solidified themselves as a Power of Women community, I've been able to behave a little bit like a PFP, but really generate one-to-one artworks that is sort of harnessing the power of community to create dynamic art inspired by them. So it's been quite an interesting journey, and throughout that experience, been able to inspire, you know, be inspired by real stories by the community, but also give back. But we'll talk about that a little bit later, but yeah.
We will. Taylor.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm an NFT founder who has had the chance to work on multiple projects across various blockchains, and utilizing the communities and influence that we were able to build, we were able to challenge societal norms, advocate and educate on mental health awareness and wellness, as well as work closely with the charitable organizations that exist in the crypto space, as well as protocols, and utilize their communities in order to give back using cryptocurrency and NFTs.
Thank you, Taylor. Johnny, mic is yours.
Am I on? All right, let's give a round of applause. Let's get some energy in this room. There we go. Hit it. All right, so I'm going to go off script. Does anybody know where Johnny Utah is from?
Utah?
Maybe Utah? Okay, it definitely predates a lot of people. So there's something. I am an FBI agent. Does anybody know where that line comes from? Yeah, there we go. At least one in the room. Thank you. So I date myself. But I am the founder of Favorite, and I just thought I'd start with a quick story, and that's just about my experience and why I'm here. But you know, when COVID happened, my life was really, you know, it was good. You know, I ate well. My job didn't change. My wife's job didn't change. We bought computers for our kids, and we were healthy. It was pretty good. And I'm a 2017 crypto guy, and I was like, hey, what can we do with token models? What can we do to kind of use this system to do good? And so at that time, you know, in the service industry was a mess, right? Food banks were overrun. I worried about inflation. I worried about money printing and what that does to our educational system. And so I said, hey, let's go build an MVP. So we launched Kindred Hearts, brought together 50 plus artists, and you know, we're about a third of the way through mint, but we've been blessed with building an art collectible with two incredible creative directors, Jeannie and Shannon Penn, Be Creative. We actually have two artists here, Kyle and Dr. Sion. If you could give them a round of applause. They're, you know, the first astronaut space. So it's been really incredible, and we've donated $40,000. So that to me is a win. you know, we're going to keep driving on. So, yeah, I appreciate, you know, being here today and being part of this panel.
I love it. I love how you're talking about art and storytelling, and I'm keeping this for later. But first, I want to know, this is a wild space. We all know it. We're still here despite this crazy market, so thank you for being here. And it's a wildly speculative market. And when you're trying to do good, and I remember in one of the first talk we had together before, when we got this panel ready, someone mentioned people just need a little hand to know where they can donate. And Johnny was like, no, people just want to make money. And so how do you actually do good in this space? What are the challenges in merging philanthropy or ethical or caring projects into a space that isn't quite made for that?
Yeah, okay, I'll take this. You know, it's interesting, isn't it? I think when we were chatting about this, you know, previously, I think you were saying one of the most difficult things is apathy, right? In terms of, you know, people sometimes, the majority of the times, people don't care. They, you know, and it's about how do we make people care? The ways that you know, the organic way that I've been able to build Power of Women and sort of our collection, it was when we were entering the space after our Genesis collection launched, it was, how are we going to create a collection that's really impactful, right, to the community? And it was just like, we suddenly realized that this NFT space, the beauty of it is community. So we thought, okay, well, how about creating a collection actually inspired by the community? So Women of the Metaverse was born. Women of the Metaverse, each drop is a dissection of womanhood. You know, what is really important? Like, what is, you know, what are we not talking about enough about as mothers? What are we not talking enough about in terms of our cultural identity and heritage? What are we not talking about enough when we are talking about the queer community? Like, when we talk about diversity, do we think about the LGBTIQ+ community? Is that something in our, you know, conscious or subconscious mind? You know, and I think it's really important that we ask these questions, and, you know, through actually engaging with the community, I've been able to create one-to-one artworks inspired by them. So they are part of that journey into actually creating that artwork. And of course, then the philanthropy side sort of ties in quite nicely. So when I was actually in, you know, on Twitter Spaces with 200 mothers going, what are we not talking enough about? And we were having discussions about, you know, postpartum depression, about miscarriages and why we can't talk about it publicly, talking about breastfeeding and the sort of taboos that we are having. So it was really amazing that we were then able to, you know, have, you know, Ariane on board with her nonprofit and actually talk about what she's doing and how, you know, the percentage of, you know, that mint of that drop was going to go to her. How was that impacting her? How is that, you know, impacting what she's doing and the good work that she was doing with the caretakers and the Great Mother? You know, that's really, and actually when we are part of the process of that storytelling, we feel personally invested in that artwork and actually then become invested in the cause behind that drop. I think that's when we suddenly care. And it's like in the step in the right direction, right? Because I think, you know, apathy is such a, you know, because it's overwhelming to care so much. And I think when we are then so invested because we feel like we don't have a voice as a mum, and suddenly we find a place where we can speak as mums and finally see a cause that actually does that, you know, that advocates for mums, I think that's such a beautiful connection, right? So I think that's been sort of the way that we've done it, but it's been organic. So, you know, yeah, I would agree. Apathy is a big challenge.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm smiling because Leah was nervous to talk, and I'm just like drinking her words. And as always, she's very eloquent. No, absolutely, absolutely. And seeing ourselves being represented, and I think it's been an issue for everything that is not an ape or a moonbird or the vomit of a moonbird, to feel seen and to feel included in a space that by default isn't really including us. Taylor, how does that play for you? Like the challenges and the beauty of this?
I would almost argue that it's not that people don't want to give back, but I think that the accessibility is not there, that you know, not only as fellow community members, but as fellow creators and collections, we need to keep each other accountable to ensure that we are creating a space where people can give back easily, where we have messaging that speaks to different groups of people so they feel more invited into the space and they feel like almost as if they found their people, right? And so if we can keep each other accountable and ensure that we are not investing our money into these projects that have a large marketing budget, maybe some sort of influence, but no long-term vision and no intent to giving back, if we find a collection that we really connect with in their messaging and can go more in that direction rather than the profitability, I think we can really change what it means to be a popular NFT collection. And once we're able to do that, then those projects will then become profitable. So I think that it's up to us as community members and fellow creators to make the change in the space.
I love how optimistic you are. Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah, so it's something I really struggle with. And everything, Leah, I mean, I can learn so much from you. You're incredible in what you're doing, building your business. So I got, we launched at a terrible time. We were launching going into, the Thursday Russia invaded Ukraine. We were launching that Sunday. So just the world changed in NFTs in that world, and the world's changed, dramatically since. But what hasn't changed about the space is it is speculative in nature, and that will continue, right? So you have to show value back to your holders, and that's a very challenging thing when you talk about, nonprofits. So I'm thinking about it a lot. I don't have all the answers, but it does start with getting back to this: how do you attract the right people? And one of our advisors, Sketch Poetic, Sheila Darcy, if anybody knows Sheila, she's absolutely wonderful. But she said, you really have to find mission-aligned, value-aligned people, and those are the people that have to gravitate to your projects, right? And so I think Leah's accomplished those things with attracting your community. I'm still in process figuring out how we do it in a more effective way. But it's hard. Like, it's very hard. And it's very hard to, if you think you just want to go start a project, it's exceptionally hard right now. And so, I'm thinking about, communities of communities, or how do you kind of build this in a more organic way where there is a centralized spot. And I'll be honest with you, I don't like Discord. I'm in Discord because it's a requirement of this space, right?
Yes, please. Yes.
Is anybody with me on that? So I've had a couple conversations with some other projects, like how do we do this, right? And so I think that's really where this thing needs to go, but it does start with attracting the right people.
I'm almost curious to ask you, because you do have experience with your own collection, what did you find was difficult about it? You were saying it was difficult. Is it just the timing, or was there anything in particular that you found was difficult to attract those people who want to give back? It's
both, but it's timing. We'd launched 6 months ago, we'd have been fine. Then you're dealing with other problems. But I totally underestimated social and marketing and influencers and all that other stuff. We had a no paid influencer policy, and that might have hurt us some, but there are several things in the project I've learned, and things that you need to do. Keeping on schedule, you really need a project manager. Those are really the two top things that I were to say, give any advice to anybody who is considering starting a project. You have to nail those two things. Yeah, if you don't, because we all have side gigs and other jobs that pay the bills. Those are top two.
I'm curious. We are at different stages in our project. Leah, you were there from the very beginning. You just launched. We're getting ready. And interestingly enough, I want to go back to this thing about accountability. How do you keep others accountable? And for you, maybe it's more within your community. And then for others, maybe it's by reaching out. Is there campaigns? Are there ways to keep each other accountable? Like, have you thought of that? Or because the era of us being we're all gonna make it, we're all so happy. Well, we're obviously not all going to make it. And so the community building is super important, finding your people, finding your cheerleaders. And then you gotta build. And then people are building their ways. And you're like, okay, well, the greed is easy to just fall into this. So how do you keep yourself accountable, and how do you keep others accountable?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, because we are so community driven, I think we have so much responsibility that is like being placed on us from our community to be, you know, to behave in the right way, because, you know, you want them there for the long run, right? But I think for me, I think it's been a bit weird because people think that I'm a PFP project with 10,000 artworks when actually in my repertoire I only have 100. So where these big PFP projects are having a team of 5 with the capital to give back in a massive way, and I'm being held to the same standard, I go, okay, I have 100 artworks, which I'm not selling. You know, I'm making it affordable for the people within my community. So I'm going, okay, if I have to give back and behave, you know, because I want to behave like everyone else who is giving back, but I need to think about it more cleverly. How can I give back in a more meaningful way that, you know, that actually I not only show, but, you know, I put my money where my mouth is and go, you know, this is the way that I'm giving back. This is, you know, this is impactful stuff, and this is how I'm caring. So it, you know, I have less capital, but I want to make a social impact. And for me, it's been, you know, the brilliant thing about what I've been able to do is build an organic community who really care about the art, but it's about how do people who are here for the art, how do they then jump on board and say, I'm interested in your social aspect, right? How I am there with you when you are giving away, you know, whatever it is that you're giving and who you're giving it to. So, you know, when, you know, Jack and I, my husband, who helps me, you know, team of 2, trying to behave like a team of 5, you know, we always are thinking, you know, is this the right person to give it to? Is it meaningful? How is it going to impact them? Actually, you know, are they willing to have a conversation with us? We've got a platform. We don't have a lot of capital, but we have a community where people are actually listening to us. I don't know why, but, you know, actually that is an asset. You know, if we can not only uplift other one-to-one artists or other, you know, projects, if we can uplift nonprofits, individuals making actual change, have a conversation with them. You know, there's amazing conversations being had about diversity, you know, but let's have the nonprofits on, you know, let's get more charities in the space and go, actually, you know, this is what philanthropy is like in Web 2. What are we doing in Web 3, right? What's the innovation with philanthropy in Web 3? Let's actually have a conversation, because, you know, I can give time and platform to people. So, you know, I want to be having these conversations. So I don't know. I feel like I hold myself accountable, but I think also, you know, we have a community that is, you know, there, and they will be there and only if they believe in you. So I think we are held to account by them. And I don't know whether it's just because we care about our community, but, you know, I think that responsibility is there, right?
I love that you're leading by example, which is not a given for many, many communities. Taylor, you were about to say something.
I was going to say, Leah, that you had brought up an interesting point, you know, onboarding these charities into the space, you know, these existing companies that already have that audience and that influence, that have that budget, that marketing budget to incorporate more people into giving back, right? So I think that's an interesting point. If there was maybe somebody to specifically onboard these companies, that could help change the space, as well as, like, everything seems impossible until it's done, right? So if we can create a new standard, I think that's really what it comes down to, and the work that we're each individually doing is going to contribute to that brighter, better future of Web3.
Johnny, you have a take on that?
Could you repeat the question?
Keeping yourself and sorry, keeping yourself accountable.
Yeah, it's I think of like I think about the team and like accountability, project management, and that type of stuff, right? Because it's hard. It is hard. Like I'm accountable for me, but this, you know, this market is dynamic, and it changes. You know, every week, every 2 weeks, something happens or something weird happens, right? So I think the question I'm challenged with is like, how do you create a community that you're not necessarily paying people, right? And that's a realization I think people want you know, it's important, right? You have to make money. Everybody has to make money. So
You
they
have
wanna
bill
be-
to pay. I was
Right.
about to say, like Leah still has the electricity bill that doubled in the UK, and now she got to pay that bill.
So, you know, again, I'm love to hear ideas, but it's basically, you know, there's a value exchange, someone either coming into the community to help in some way, and then they you know, join the team, become part of a DAO, however the structure evolves in the future.
Yeah, and I would like to add, like, as someone who's worked in the nonprofit world for a long time, they're drained. Like, we don't have the energy to learn. Most of us don't have the energy to learn about Web3. So, go meet them where they are. Like, onboard them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like I cannot count the amount of times where I reached out to people and they were like, crypto, I mean, sure, but I mean, we're tired. We're working 15 hours a day, and so it's really, really difficult for us. And they were like, do you have a webinar? Do you have something? Can you come to us and explain to us how to set up a wallet? How does that work with our business model? How does that work with a nonprofit? What are the tax laws? All of these things that we don't think of. A lot of people, we come into the space with these grand ideas that we're going to save the world. The world is already saved by these people who have been doing this for decades. So let's just meet them there. Thank you. I like you. I see you. And they can benefit from that. I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I will write my things, we will draw our stuff, and then, you know, let's bridge that. And I think this is the beauty with removing the middleman, is to actually meet the people where they are and to do good with things that are already in place. Before we run out of time, that was my call to action. What are your call to action? What would you like people to do to make the world a better place? I'm sorry.
I think innovation. This space has been really incredible in terms of innovation. There is always someone doing something interesting, doing something new. You know, and when I talk to a lot of nonprofits, to a lot of charities in the space, you know, it's great. Giving 5% of your mint is great. But what are we doing next, right? You know, we are seeing interesting DAOs like the Honey Badgers DAO, you know, who are really, you know, doing interesting things about getting your community involved in the philanthropy, in the process of giving, you know, money from peer to peer. You know, I think what we've done is we've like plonked Web 2 philanthropy into Web 3, my call to action is be innovative. Like, how can we rethink the way that we could get money to the people that count, right? You know, I just think, you know, in the sort of spectrum of blockchain where we are seeing transparency in provenance, and that has revolutionized the way that we behave as artists and how we behave to artists, is there not a way that we can do this with philanthropy, that we can actually, as a community, be more invested because we can see the story, we can see the money being tracked, or we can hear about the impact that our money as holders, when we buy an NFT, and we can see where that money is going to, what person it's impacting, or what community it's impacting. So I think my call to action is, let's get some really creative people who really care about social impact.
Yes.
Like, what can we do next, right?
Taylor, Johnny, before we get, I'm seeing yellow.
I
I'm like
know,
completely blinded.
oh, sorry. That's okay. I'll keep mine short and sweet, but I was just going to say that I think as individuals in this space, we really need to think about, you know, find our cause, think about how we want to contribute, what role we could play. There's so many opportunities, and yeah, that's my call to action.
Yeah. Johnny?
Yeah, just so I get to wrap. So
You get the mic drop.
Yeah, all right. So for us, just you know, support communities you believe in, the teams you believe in. If you like to be part of our project, we actually have a POAP. You can find me here at NFT.NYC. There's a free mint tied to it. Get the POAP, and you have a free mint. So feel free to come find me. Appreciate everybody being here. I
Yeah, it was
appreciate
lovely. Thank you, guys.
handing it back to you.
Awesome.
You want to wrap it? You got?
We're wrapping.
Kyle, are you
What?
cutting us off?
Yeah, it's all red now, bro.
It's all done.
It's all red. We got to keep this train on the track. Let's hear it for impact-driven JPEG. Thank you all for being here. That was totally great. And here's Dr. Proctor with What's Up Next.